All right, welcome back to Trimble Garage. So today another project. It's not mine. This is my son's 1997 Toyota 4Runner, and he just picked this thing up. Needs a bit of work, but the big problem we're having is the water pump. Somewhere in the cooling system around the water pump or the thermostat housing is just hemorrhaging coolant. So to get that out, you actually need to change or remove the timing belt to get the water pump out. So we don't know when the timing belt was changed on this. So we're going to be actually changing the timing belt, all the components related to that, and the water pump. So let's see what's involved. All right, this is the 3.4 liter V6, and the leak is, you can sort of see down there that rusty looking stuff on the top of the oil pan. I guess it's the oil pan. It's kind of the top of the timing cover, I guess, down there. Anyway, that's where it's leaking, somewhere down there. So we're just going to start removing everything. You can do this without removing the radiator. I've seen it done, but just to make things easier, I think, and because it's not hard to remove the radiator, we're going to pull the radiator out as well. So there's just lots of room. There's no worry about hitting it with a wrench or something and damaging it. All right, we're going to start pulling this rad out. We're going to start with the rad hoses. So we're just gonna throw this onto time lapse and stop along the way. All right, so what we did, we got the fan shroud. First we pulled the fan off, and then we removed the shroud at the same time. We've decided we're not going to take the radiator off if we don't have to, because the transmission lines go to it down there, and I really don't want to have to deal with transmission oil. So we're going to leave the radiator in. The next thing we'll do is remove the lower rad hose where it comes off the thermostat outlet, and then we'll take this timing cover off. So this lower rad hose is being a pain in the butt. So what he's doing is he's pushing a little screwdriver in the back side, just trying to separate the hose from the aluminum housing and work it around. And hopefully it's get it enough that we can slip it off. Oh, it looks like you're getting it. You got her. Yeah, you got it. You can get it now. I've never seen a timing belt that close to going. It's very fortunate that we are pulling this off. Look at that thing cracked everywhere. I've never seen a timing belt like that hasn't gone. Crazy. Anyway, oh, and the other thing I'll show you, listen to the water pump when it spins. No, it should not sound like that. All right, just before we go any further, we've rolled the engine around and got it to lined up the timing marks. So this will be top dead center. You can see that little notch down there, yeah, on the pulley is lining up with the 0. And then up here, there's a little notch on the cam sprocket, which lines up with a V groove in the back bracket there. And same on the other side. So it is set. We may have to bump it around a bit when we remove the pulley, but right now it's good. So we're going to start pulling off some more stuff. All right, so we couldn't get our impact on, and I really do want to use an impact because it's just way easier to try to get that crank pulley loose. So we pulled the radiator out, and when we pulled the radiator out, the transmission cooler piece came out. It's completely just, the threads are gone. Where did that go? Right there. So this radiator's history. We need another radiator too. The list just keeps going. But that's okay. Give her a crack, Rye. See what happens here. Just give it a couple cracks. Her loose. Okay, that's good. Perfect. And now we'll get a puller in there and we'll pull that pulley off. The next update, there's 2 holes in the crank pulley. They are an M8 by 1.25. I actually had to tap them out so that I could get a couple of bolts in. We put the crank bolt in just by a few threads, and now we're gonna go ahead, Riley, and see if we can crack this thing loose. See if she's gonna come out. Sorry, we did get it off just by hand. Once we removed the crank bolt, we just slid it off by hand. Or I did, so I didn't get it on film. But anyway, that's out. And then I put a wrench on the sprocket just to get the engine back in time. Again, you can see the timing mark here is lining up with this little V groove up here. I can't believe that belt. Anyway, the next thing we gotta do is remove this next plastic cover here. There'll be some bolts for that, so that's the next step. All right, the next thing we're doing, we're taking off the aluminum pipe off the pump. Oh, it's just a thermostat. Oops. The next thing we can do is we're going to pop this belt off by removing this tensioner somehow. I don't know how that goes in and out, but we'll figure that out. And then take the water pump out. The tensioner looks like it's held in with a 10mm hex. We're just going to screw this out. We don't know what's going to happen when this goes, other than the belt's going to come loose.
Nothing.
Oh, very anticlimactic. Good. Let's pull that out. Yeah. And now the tensioner hopefully will come right out. And now we can pull that belt off. There's our tensioner. That comes new with the kit. That should come off now. That belt should go up on the wall.
Wall of shame.
Wall of shame. I can't believe that belt didn't break. Okay, that's great. We're at the point now where we can take this water pump out, and then we're done until the parts come in. All right, we got the water pump off, and as you can see, there is evidence that the weeping hole there was puking really nasty coolant and rust and crap out of it. But that's where it was leaking. And then let's see, look in the block there, down there. It's just nasty. So I think they just kept adding water when it was leaking, and there might not have been a lot of coolant. So anyway, we got the water pump out. Now the next thing to do is clean up the gasket faces. I'm going to take this and roll it out to the front of the shop here outside. I'm going to take some degreaser and spray. There's so much grease and just crap in there. And yeah, that's it. Next thing is wait for parts to arrive. Okay, it looks like we got some parts have arrived. Let's have a look what we got here. Should be the water pump and the timing belt. And I think maybe the thermostat. In here. Gaskets, timing belt, idler pulley, couple of camshaft seals. I don't know if I'm going to put them in. I probably should. New tensioner. And what's this here? Another seal. That'll be the crank seal, I guess. What we got here? Oh, that's the new spring for the tensioner. Cool. All right, so if you're going to replace this tensioner, which obviously you should, there is a bolt up. You can see the top of the bolt right there, the nut, the threads. The bolt one goes there, and the other one is here. Now to get this one off, you need to remove, if you have air conditioning, you need to remove this bracket. And to remove that bracket, you have to remove the air conditioner, or at least move it out of the way. There's 5 bolts that hold this bracket on. And one is on the front of the motor, and the other 4, oh my God, you can't even see them. They're on the side of the block. These are the 4 bolts that hold that bracket on. And I swear it's almost easier to pull the engine out than it is to get those Some of you have done this job are probably laughing at me right now because you've been there. But it can be done. So I'm gonna get that bracket cleaned up. That pulley is actually seized on there. So I've got to look at replacing that. Okay, that's the 2 bolts out of the tensioner. It should just come out. It comes out. So there you go. There's the tensioner. All right, I just removed the lip seal out of the crank. I just used a little tool, just tapped this in the side, sort of just punctured it, and it just pried out really easy. So I'll just give that a little bit of a wipe up here and tap the new seal in. All right, I got that all cleaned up. Now what I'm gonna do is take a little bit of engine oil and wipe it on the crank, so that seal can slide onto there nice. I just happen to have a little tool here that's going to work to press this thing in. Let's get that started on there. There we go. Just tap on nicely here. There we go. New crank seal. All right, we're pressing the tensioner back in. Yep. Here's a bolt. Oh. Okay, before I put the gasket on for the water pump here, I'm going to put some Permatex on it to seal that block because it's not a very smooth surface. The water pump side I'm not worried about because that's a freshly machined surface, so it'll be fine. But for the block, I'm going to throw some Permatex on there. All right, got the gasket on, and now we're slipping this little hose onto the water pump, and then we'll slide the water pump on.
Yes.
Okay, we got the hose on, we got the water pump in place. The next thing, we'll put the bolt on. All right, we got the water pump on, we got the crank sprocket on, we've loosely put the tensioner pulley, idler pulley on, and now go ahead, we're just gonna throw the new pulley in the middle here. Idler pulley, I guess you could say. There we go. Does it spin? Oh yeah. Beautiful. Beauty. All right, we got all the pulleys on. Next thing we do is start putting the belt on. So putting these on is a little bit of a challenge, at least this one was. So what we did is we started at the bottom, pulled the pulley tight, got it right on there, pulled it as tight as we could around this one, and we took this tensioner off, or this idler pulley off, and then we came up the other way, and then we slipped this down in between the two and put the bolt in and double check that our marks are good. Everything is good. So now we're gonna pull what I call the grenade pin. So go ahead and Riley, pull that grenade pin. There we go. The grenade is armed. Mm-hmm. So there we go. Now it's tension. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the motor over a couple of times, or one time anyway. Okay, so we got a ratcheting breaker bar on there. We're just gonna turn this over by hand, make sure everything's good. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start putting the covers back on, the timing covers. The thermostat has not arrived yet, so we just put this piece on temporarily. We're going to have to pop that off, so we're not going to be able to take the... Actually, I think we can put the top cover on. Yeah, we can. That's exposed still, so that's good. We can put all the covers on. And then once the covers are on, then we're going to start putting this air conditioning back in and that bracket. That's going to be a bit of a pain, but all right, let's do it. One thing I didn't mention when we pulled this apart, I don't think, was there's a wire here held on with a bracket that's held on with two screws, two 10mm head bolts. You need to remove those to get access to the lower timing cover bolts. So now that we've got the lower timing cover back on, we need to put those two bolts back in that hold that bracket. Things are going pretty good, and I just realized we forgot something. We forgot this. So we're gonna have to take the bolts off that little bracket, one there, lower that little wire down, and then take the 4 bolts on this lower cover off, put this on, and then put it back together. Oh well, that's better to find out now than later. There it is. All right, throw it on there. You don't want to forget that again. And now we can put it back together. Okay, it's the next day, and we got another package. Not enough to finish this job, but we can get another couple of parts on. This should be the, what do they call it? The fan pulley bracket, I think it's called. Oh, it's nice. It comes with nuts. And bolts. Oh, studs, okay. So there you go. There's a nice new assembly. So what I'll do now is I'll go and Loctite these studs in so that they stay in place, and then yeah, we can put it on the engine. Okay, so what I've used is Loctite 242. I Loctited those studs in. I loosely put the nuts on so they don't get lost, and yeah, let's throw this on the motor. Okay, the next thing to do is slide the upper timing cover on, and we're gonna have to attach in this little window here. There's a wire that comes through for your camshaft trigger. It snaps into that, and there's also a little bracket on the back here for your spark plug wires. It clips into this little square here. Pretty simple to put on. Just the only difficult part, you gotta snake it behind the dipstick. Next thing I'm going to do is install this air conditioning bracket. This is probably the hardest part. I'm not looking forward to this. The hardest part really is these 2 bolts here, which you get access from the wheel well. You have to take the air conditioning pump off to get to those 2 bolts, and that is not easy. Actually, it goes this way. It's not easy. But anyway, I'm not going to put that on camera. I'm just going to get it done, and we'll move on from there. All right, I got this thing loosely put back together. I got the belts on, the power steering pump most importantly, because I got to move this thing quickly out my driveway and bring another vehicle in tomorrow. We're waiting for the new radiator and a thermostat to come in, and then we'll be able to button this thing up 100%, but that's not going to be for till after the weekend. So we're going to have to wait for that. And also, while I was at it, down here, this tensioner, it wasn't even done up. Like when we took this apart, it was not even connected. They were just relying on 2 bolts to hold the power steering pump, and the alternator was also screwed. This and also the tensioner pulley for the air conditioning, it was completely seized rock hard. There was no belt, so we're gonna have to get a new idler pulley and a belt for the air conditioning, which doesn't really matter because it's got no charge on it anyway, but it should be fixed. So we'll get those parts. All right, we have got the last puzzle piece. So let's actually last 2 puzzle pieces. We'll have a radiator and an engine thermostat in here. I noticed the box has got a big hole, so hopefully the radiator isn't damaged, because that would really suck. There's your thermostat. So there you go, there's the radiator. It's got the new fitting down there that broke off, and it does have these metal brackets on the side, which is good because the other ones were We broke studs and stuff off getting the old one out. So, and we got an engine thermostat. Perfect. So let's put her together. Okay, I got the new thermostat here. The important thing on this, there's a little bleeder, sort of little hole here. You gotta make sure that goes at the top. So I'll just slide this in. I don't know if I'll get it on camera. It's pretty tight. I'm sure everybody knows how to put one of these in. And then these little hooks. Hook in there and there. Hold it in place. Too easy, eh? All right, we got the rad in, and next thing we're doing is hooking up the transmission cooler lines. Let's do that clamp up on there. Perfect. Get the other clamp on. Yep. Okay, that's 2. Now we'll put the fan on along with the fan shroud. Actually, before we do that, we're going to put the lower rad hose on first. That's going to be a lot easier, so we're just pulling that off the old rad. Okay, a little dark here, but we are putting the radiator hose on. Get it?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now we'll throw the clamps on and one more thing down. Slip the bolts, or let's just say the nuts off of the pulley. Now we're going to slide the fan shroud and the fan on at the same time. See if you can slide it on there.
Right.
Is it on there?
Yeah, it's
That's it. Now the bolts are on the fender over there, or the nuts I should say. Slip a nut on there and that'll hold that fan on. And then we'll get the fan shroud bolted up and then we can finish that up. All right, we're just tightening up the last nut. The last nut on the fan there. We just did the tensioner on the power steering. Basically, you got to remove the air box, pull it up out of the way, because to get to the tensioning bolt is, I don't know, it's impossible without doing that, I think. It's really tough. And then the alternator one is also in a bugger of a spot. It's not as bad, but it's on the outside of the alternator. It's a bit of a challenge. We're just getting this last nut tightened up, and then throw the upper rad hose on and some coolant. We should be ready to fire this thing up. All right, we got her running. Got the water in it, coolant, and we're just letting it warm up here. We got heat coming out the heater, so we know water's flowing. Just wait for that engine thermostat to open. But looks like we got no leaks, so that's good. All right, going for a little test drive here. Get the heat turned up. You got the heat cranked up. Get lights burned out in that thing. We gotta replace some bulbs in there. Oh yeah, I feel that heat. Just gonna go around the block and then see if she's leaking. Okay, so that's gonna be a wrap for that project. Successfully completed. Then no more water leaks, and we got a timing belt on there now that we've got confidence this is gonna last for 100,000 kilometers or more. I've done a lot of water pumps and timing belt jobs in my day, and that hands down, that toilet was the most challenging one I've done. It was really tight to get in there. And it was quite a challenge, but just step by step, and got it finished. So if you are going to be tackling this job, I hope this video will help you get your project done. It's not insurmountable, but it is a bit of a tough one. So anyway, thoughts and comments below. How about a thumbs up, and hey, think about subscribing. I'm almost at the 500 subscriber mark. I really appreciate everybody, and I hope you're enjoying the content. I'll try to get some more out. Yeah, so anyway, thanks a lot and have a great day.